Verse 626. For the ignorant things are said to be causal, but not for the wise. When the self-nature of mind is liberated, it becomes pure, where the wise have their abode. It might be worth listening to the previous video for the context for this if you haven't done so. Because like the previous verse, this harks back to the very first video where I quoted a paragraph from D.T. Suzuki. I'll just read it out again. The Lanka asserts the existence of a reality which is perceivable only by the eye of transcendental knowledge, which is in the possession of a wise man. It is the exalted ultimate self-nature of all things, and as it can be recognized only when our spiritual eye looks beyond the realm of discrimination, which is ruled by laws of being and non-being. It is also called the truth of solitude, or the absolute. We could also call it mind. The self-nature of mind, which is where the wise have their abode, and it's where we too can have our abode. So I looked into these laws of being and non-being in the previous video, and I covered that verse in the very first video. But here we're interested in this thing called causality, because what we've been looking at is, when we've been looking at the laws of being and non-being, we've been looking at how we construct our reality. And it's necessary to do this for our survival. But it's also ultimately limiting. It's like we construct our map. Our map helps us get around, helps us survive. But then we take that map as reality, because it's so useful. It gives us control over our environment. We're not getting flummoxed by it. We're learning to navigate our environment. And this is a powerful thing. So we invest everything in it. We invest everything in our map of reality, whether it's a religious map, a scientific map, or a spiritual map. And we've got reasons for doing this. We'll say it works. Look how well I'm doing because I followed this particular map. We're reinforcing it. This is seeking recourse to the causal. So the causal here refers to the ways in which we reinforce our map and cite it as reality. This is what is real. Our map is real. Look how well I'm doing with it. It might be a scientific map which gives us technology and extended control of our limbs, over our environment. It might be a religious map that gets God on our side and gets God to bless our undertakings, or the gods. It might be a spiritual map which says, well, look how healthy I am. I don't eat this, I eat that, only organic stuff. And I want to live in a nice environment. Look, we've got solar power. I recycle everything. And look how well I'm living and how I'm looking after the planet. This is surely the best map to follow. Can't argue with that. But the point I'm making is, it's a map, it's not reality. It's something constructed according to the laws of being and non-being. We're saying this is what's real, this is what's important, and this is what isn't. But really what we're saying is, And what all these three ways of approaching life have got in common is they're all about taking control. So this is what I looked at in the previous video. So we're no longer interested as spiritual practitioners in boosting or bolstering a particular map as real. We can argue that one map is better than the other, but that's not what we're interested in here. We're wanting to drop all maps. We're wanting to drop all pictures of reality. We've got a certain idea about how the world is, how it came to be, and we reinforce this picture of a world by this very understanding. It came to be after this particular process. And this is the causal understanding once again. We're not just saying this is how the world is, but we're saying this is how it came to be. So we're reinforcing the reality of our map once again. So in this verse we're being asked to drop the map. Drop all our constructions of reality. So what does it mean to abide in the purity of mind? Well, there's a wonderful possibility that we no longer have to take our cue from this reality in which we've constructed, which we usually inhabit. And this means we don't have to let it dictate our feelings. We can feel wonderful no matter what's happening. Now, I don't want to be hypocritical about this. I'm in quite a lot of physical discomfort, if not downright pain these days. I sometimes describe it as a migraine of the body. Movement is very difficult and uncomfortable. And I do what I can with the use of medication and other exercises to alleviate it. So much of the time, yes, I'm not inhabiting pure mind. But this is the practice. This is the practice. It's a possibility. Not just a hope. It's a possibility which actualizes itself from time to time. So practice is about coming back to pure mind, or mind only. And in addition to what I've said about it in the past, there is this wonderful, I don't think realization's too exaggerated a word for it, there's this wonderful realization that we do not need to take our cue from the reality that we've constructed in connivance with others, in connivance with the culture in which we find ourselves. So be happy.